Hello, I have not made one of these in quite a while. I competed and then I fell pregnant and then I had my baby and now I'm 9 weeks postpartum. And as far as competing goes, what I have decided before having Sophia, I had rose colored goggles on and I was like, I'll compete in season B. So in July, and right now it is currently November. That's what I thought I would be doing. But now that I have a newborn and I'm seeing just how inconsistent it is for me to train to the level, like I can still train, but I'm just not able to prioritize all of the things that I want to prioritize in my own fitness. I've decided that rather than rushing into it, I would rather do a solid build phase for all of 2026 and then compete in season A of 2027, meaning that my daughter would be like a year and a half. And so just not a whole rush to get there. And this is the thing with my brand, with my business, I'm always speaking to women about building muscle for longevity and health. And it just felt really off brand for me to rush to compete. And when I really think about why I was putting that pressure on myself, like quite honestly, as a coach, it's mainly to feel like, you know, I need to stay relevant. I need to stay in the mix. I need to keep my name in there. But really, if I want to be doing competitions, which aren't like they're an extreme sport, the reality is I shouldn't be doing it more than, you know, every 2 years or less. Like I should be waiting maybe once every 3 years to do a competition and really spend the majority of the time building muscle, exactly like what I try to teach to my clients. So I feel a lot better about this idea. However, I stepped off stage in May of 2024 and I built for 8 months and then I fell pregnant. And then for 9-10 months I tried to build, but like probably ends up being that I was maintaining muscle, and now I've recovered and I feel like I'm finally like at a level where I can do the weights that I need to. It's just more about making sure I can actually get all the sets in right now with the baby. So I've been building and I'm currently around 74.5 kilos. Before falling pregnant, before building even, my normal weight is like 65. So I'm still quite a lot heavier than normal, and it doesn't bother me, of course. But if I want to build for a whole year, that will become a really uncomfortable point for me, of course. You know, as much as we want to be super human and not care about our aesthetic, we always will as well. Even though I like to think of myself as more of a performance and functional type of athlete. So I've decided that I'm going to do an 8-week cut, which I've already started. And so this is week 1. And my whole idea about filming this is I wanted to show you 8 weeks of a cut in a non-extreme way, because, you know, we watch bodybuilders do it, and that's a 6-month cut and you get to a unhealthy body fat percentage. I'm doing an 8-week cut. It's more relatable to general population because I'm not going to get into an extreme body fat percentage. I don't even have a goal of how much I'm going to lose. I'm going to just do 8 weeks and see what my body, how it responds, and then I will reverse properly out of it. And I want to show this whole process to people because I don't think what I've learned from working with clients is a lot of people don't understand the diet protocol and how to do it safely and effectively and not develop some toxic traits around it. So I want to do an 8-week mini cut series, and then following by that, I will do a reverse series. And then following that, I will go into a build phase for a year. And I want to share that journey with you so you can see the whole process of bodybuilding, not just the prep where everyone glorifies the fat loss, because that isn't bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is the whole process of building the muscle, most importantly. And I want more people to understand all of this. So I started this cut on November 1st. I weighed in at 74.5 kilos. Today, which is Monday, I weighed in at 73.5 kilos. So I've dropped a kilo. Now, when you first start dieting, it is to be expected that the first week you're going to lose a lot more. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if on Friday I weigh in at 1.5 kilos less, and then the week after I'll only drop like 500 grams, maybe, you know. So then in the 2 weeks the total will be 2 kilos, but it'll be very uneven weeks. And it might even be that the second week I don't lose any, and that's okay. This is always the process. It's never linear, and it's never something that you can completely predict. I'll take photos and I'll make sure that I compare week to week so people can see, and I'll always compare like the first week's photo to what the current week is so that we can see a good visual. The way that I track is you track your scale weight, you track your girth measurements, so like chest, waist, hips, thighs, and then photos. You don't have to take body fat percentage measurements. I mean, most of them are wildly inaccurate anyways, and it's like extra information that isn't important. Now, Sophia is sleeping, so I'm going to do a really quick little full body workout. Today, all I'm doing is a hinge pattern, a lunge pattern, a push and a pull. And that's the reality right now. Like, it's really hard for me to predict, hence why I don't want to compete right away. I'm only doing like short little half-an-hour sessions, which is why I thought it would be a perfect time to do a mini cut, because I'm not losing muscle, but I'm also not able to really push gaining muscle. So I'm just cleaning it up. But the one thing I wanted to talk about today in this week's video, before we move on, is the importance of finding maintenance. And this is where a lot of people go wrong when they start a diet phase. Now, if you do not know what your maintenance calories are, and you've never tracked and weighed your food to understand your macronutrient profile and your calories at maintenance, you're almost setting yourself up for failure in a diet. What do you think is going to happen from a maintenance to a diet that suddenly you're just gonna flip a switch and do it all properly? First of all, when you go into a diet, you're going to be hungry. I don't think people, I mean, I've had clients say this to me, like, oh, but I feel hungry. Yeah, you're absolutely going to feel hungry. You're in a diet. That's the point. If you don't feel hungry when you're in a diet, you're not gonna lose fat. Like, the reality is we're going to feel that hunger. That should be already expected. So you're going to have that stress in your life on top of the fact that you're going to be weighing and tracking your foods. And if that habit isn't already established and easy for you, then doing a diet is going to be very challenging and quite defeating, to be honest. I'm not saying people can't do it. People can. But like, let's pick the lowest hanging fruit first, and let's establish the habits properly and then improve them into a diet phase after. So if you are someone who is really curious about this and you've never done it before and you want to build a really good relationship around tracking, do it before you diet. If you only ever track your food to diet, it does become a toxic diet trait. But if you're doing it to try to hit your fiber, to try to hit your protein, to make sure that you're thriving, it becomes a really positive tool that we can use. I'm going to get into this quick little workout. You can take a look at what I'm doing. I'll talk to you later this week. Okay, so just wanted to show how I make my coffee. I use this oat protein milk, and I really like using this stevia. And so what we do is I put 100 milliliters, which really, when you look at it, it is not much. Okay, 109, good enough. And then when I'm frothing it, I actually don't froth this milk. What I do is I put hot water into it. So like, for example, instead of doing this froth button, I go into the actual water spray. Just make sure that there's enough water in there. I'll have to put some more on. And so you can see now how much heavier that is. But that's mainly hot water with just that little bit of almond milk. But the almond milk's so thick that it actually blends quite nicely into a more watered down version. So then I'll add this. Then I'll add some of this and log it as 109 milliliters of oat milk. Good morning. So it is Tuesday morning. I just dropped Maya off. I was looking at my check-ins for my clients today that I'm going to do, and I'm breastfeeding my little one. So I have dropped 1.5 kilos, and it's only about 4 or 5 days into this cut. Started on Saturday morning, November 1st, and now it's Tuesday. So that's a lot. But also, the first week, if you do everything accurately, and again, you know your stats, you know your numbers, you know exactly where you're supposed to be, it's kind of expected that this can happen. And that's kind of for 2 reasons. We have water weight in our body. So beforehand, before doing this, I would have been eating like well over 300 grams of carbs a day, like a lot, right? Because I eat close to 3,000 calories a day when I'm not dieting. And that's a lot of carbohydrates. And carbohydrates bind to water in our body. So when you cut your carbs, which I'm not low carb at all, I'm actually quite anti low carbohydrate dieting. I think it's bullshit. We need carbs to thrive. But when I cut carbs, because when you're dieting, you're going to cut fats and carbs both, you're lessening the glycogen in your body, therefore you're lessening the water weight in your body. It is impossible that I would have lost 1.5 kilos in 5 days. That's not going to happen. Like, we know that scientifically, right? But it's still encouraging just to see that I'm following it right, and I have cut some carbs and water weight. But then also the loss on the scale has to do with your food volume. When you first decrease your food, like I have cut, 500 calories as a deficit in my diet, that's a lot of food volume that is now not in my stomach. So of course, we have to remember that also adds weight to our body. If we're not eating as much food, the scale's going to go down. So yes, the first week of a diet can be very exciting, but you can't expect that you're going to see that result into the next few weeks. It's just not going to happen. And this is where people become discouraged because they don't understand that process. But very encouraging, just nice to kind of start and feel like I'm on the right path. Now, just to quickly touch, because I know someone's going to think this, about me breastfeeding and dieting. I originally didn't want to do a cut until I was at least 12 weeks, just to make sure that my milk supply was established. But this is my second time breastfeeding, and my milk supply is really good. And Sophia's been gaining incredibly, like way more than what they expect. So I'm not too concerned about that. Plus, with Maya, I did compete while breastfeeding, so I know my body is pretty good at keeping the supply, because I'm not even going to go close into that extreme of a fat loss. But even then, I still was able to breastfeed, and I did that with her being 2 years old. So it wasn't a worry if I did lose my supply then. Where this, of course, I don't want to lose my supply, but also I'm not going to an unhealthy body fat percentage. And I think this is where people get confused with the whole postpartum time. It's each to their own, and there's so much variable in this. The person has to do what feels right for them. But of this not being my first time, I already have a huge milk supply. And also the fact that I know how to track, and I know how to track in a way that won't be extreme for my body. If someone had never done tracking before, and that put a lot of stress into their mind to do this process, that already would be an issue. You think of any loaded stress for a new mother, that's not good. So it has to be something that the person's really comfortable with. It seems really fairly straightforward and easy for them. The habits very strongly instilled already, and also they know how to not push it to that extreme. I'm not going to go into a huge deficit. I'm just doing the 500 deficit. That's more than enough, and I won't push that further. So we're gonna end the video here. A little bit of talking this week. I was planning to show my training this morning at the gym when I actually went, but a friend met up and I trained with her, so didn't get that done. But we'll end it here, and we will talk more next week, and I'll keep you posted on the process.